Hi, welcome to Cinema Synopsis. Today I will show you a horror, mystery, sci-fi film from 2019 titled In the Tall Grass. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. After a 3-day drive, siblings Becky, 6 months pregnant, and Cal are on their way to give the baby up for adoption. Becky is feeling ill, so they stop near a field of tall grass. Shortly after, they hear a boy's voice calling for help. Cal pulls the car over to the side of the road. A woman from the grass field yells at the kid, whom she calls Tobin, to stop making noise and warns that he will hear you. Cal believes Tobin is just a few feet inside the field and goes in to save the boy. Becky tries to call the police, but the service breaks down. Amidst the confusion, she has lost sight of Cal and they become separated. Cal tries to get to Tobin, but his voice just teleports, like he's running away from him, so he and Becky decide to meet up by following the sound of her voice. He follows it in when he should be about to meet her. He somehow misses her. At one point she's to his right and then to his left, even though she doesn't move an inch. Cal begins to suspect that something is fishy. They come up with the idea of jumping to determine each other's position. The first attempt shows that they are only 20 feet apart, but on a second attempt Becky is shocked to see Cal a significant distance away from her. He runs around frantically calling out to Becky. Cal stumbles upon the dead body of a golden retriever that died of dehydration. Becky and Cal grow increasingly uneasy as they notice the field somehow shifting their location from one another. 1 minute they seem close and the next leagues away. Evening falls and the two still haven't found each other. As Becky sits down to rest, she hears grass noises not far from her and Cal is still calling her name. A man emerges from the grass. He introduces himself as Ross and says that he is Tobin's father and the husband of Natali, a woman who is also stuck in the grass field. He asks Becky to follow him, saying she'll be safe with him. Despite her reservations, Ross convinces her and says he will help her find her brother. Cal is still running around calling for Becky, but he gets no answer. He breaks down, thinking he'll never find her. Tobin startles him and says that it's much easier to find things when they are dead, because the field doesn't move dead things around. As the boy buries the crow, he tells Cal that he didn't lure him in, he was lured in by a man himself and that Becky will die soon. When Cal asks how he knows about his sister, Tobin explains that the rock teaches people to hear the grass and the grass knows everything. Tobin decides to show Cal where Becky is. Ross and Becky are talking about the baby and he's endearing himself to her, but when she stumbles across some medicine and torn hair, she loses sight of Ross and panics when a woman emerges from the grass and startles her. Tobin leads Cal to a clearing in the middle of the field where there is a large rock with carvings of dancing men. Tobin says that the rock will help Cal find Becky, just like it helped Tobin find him. As he is about to touch it, he hears Becky screaming and rushes to her aid. Travis, Becky's ex-boyfriend, stops at a gas station looking for the two of them. On the way, he notices Cal's car near the church and pulls over. From the looks of it, the car has been abandoned for quite some time. On the road, he finds Becky's book and decides it would be a good idea to look for her in the grass. Travis heads towards the sun, using the grass to mark his path so he can return. But after he continues walking, the grass regenerates and he realizes that he is no longer walking towards the sun. It is a maze of grass that is constantly shifting. As night falls, Travis lies down exhausted. He is startled to hear noises. It was Tobin lurking nearby. Tobin tells him to be quiet as they hear other people being distressed. He explains that there are parallel universes where people get stuck in the same tall grass, but it has nothing to do with them. Travis is confused, but Tobin obviously knows him and is also confused that Travis doesn't remember him. He recites facts about him and that he's looking for Becky. Tobin agrees to show him where she is. They start running through the grass, staying as close as possible. Tobin points out a body, says it's Becky, and takes off. Travis finds a necklace that confirms it's her. The next morning, Travis is roaming the grass when he hears a family talking and calls to them for help. He recognizes a boy's voice as Tobin's. It turns out Natali and Ross are there too. The dog runs into the grass and the whole family goes after him. Travis tries to tell them not to come in, but it's too late. The whole day passes quickly and since Ross separated from Tobin and Natali, he searches for them to no avail. He mutters a few soothing words to himself and notices the clearing with a mysterious rock. Tobin yells for help from the grass field. It's Cal and Becky. Cal pulls up the car on the side of the road, just as before. Travis is dehydrated and weak. He hears Cal and Becky looking for Tobin and also trying to find each other. Travis speaks up and tells them both that he is in the grass maze and has been here for days. The whole situation is confusing to them. Tobin yells that his dog died and Travis figures that they could all meet at Tobin's location because the field does not move dead things. Tobin keeps talking and it's not long before they all meet up. Travis explains the situation in more detail. that he came here after them, but somehow they arrived just now. It's confusing, he knows, but asks them to trust him. Becky feels like someone is watching them, so the group decides to move, and to get a better sense of their surroundings, Tobin gets on Travis' shoulders. He notices a building and they march to it. On the way there, Travis and Becky make up and she lets him touch her belly. Cal is not happy about it. That's when they get a call. From the sound of it, it's Becky. They can only hear bits and pieces telling them not to make the same mistake, and then it breaks off and they keep moving. Also, Becky suspected right. They are being watched from the grass. After some time of walking, Becky begins to feel terrible. She starts bleeding, faints, and has visions of the baby wrapped in grass. Ross emerges out of nowhere and performs CPR. When she wakes up, he explains that it probably is a heat stroke. Ross tells them that he can get them out, but it's not a straight path, that's for sure. They tell him they are headed for a building, and when Tobin gets on Travis' shoulders, he realizes the building is gone, but Ross assures them he has the golden ticket out of here. He leads them through the field and sings, completely relaxed, which seems strange to the others. Ross leads them back to the trampled circle of grass with the ominous rock in the middle. When asked what it is, he explains that it's been here since before the Ice Age and is basically the center of the center. Becky snaps and calls him out. He told them he would show them the way out. He has, you just have to look. He advises them to touch the stone and they will know the way out immediately. Cal wants to touch the stone, but Natali comes out of the grass and tells them to stop. She is scared and tells Ross to stay away. She tells the rest of the group that he's lying and is shocked to see Becky because she saw her dead. Ross tries to make it seem like she is delusional. Becky has more visions of grass people and Ross, who no longer looks human. She asks them to leave and take Natali with them, but Ross just tells them to touch the rock and then they'll immediately know what he's talking about. Travis tells him to let them go. Or what? Asks Ross, and the wind disappears. He starts to intimidate them to touch the rock. Travis lunges at Ross, but he overpowers him and dislocates his shoulder. He then takes Natali and tells his son that it's only flesh and flesh is grass and crushes her skull. Frightened, they run back into the grass. Tobin notices the dog and they all run after him and happen to arrive at the building they were trying to find earlier. They barricade themselves in. Cal helps Travis with his arm and starts blaming him for everything, since he wanted Becky to have an abortion, so they ended up driving away to give the baby up and it all started this mess. Turns out Cal loves his sister a bit more than just sister, and after Travis points it out to him, he gets a beating. Ross found them, so they decide to climb to the roof and barricade themselves there. They remember seeing this building from the road. They see that the road is only a few yards away, but there is no telling what will happen if they step into the grass. They notice that the dog has reached the road. Travis slips and instead of pulling him in, Cal drops him. Ross finds another way up, so they try to make a run for it. Tobin runs into the grass and Becky is still worried about Travis. Cal tells her to forget about him, and that's when she realizes he did something. She runs away from him and Ross catches up to Cal. As if he can read his mind, he tells him what's going through Cal's head. He storms off. You can run through the grass, but you cannot hide. Ross catches and overpowers him. He begins to strangle him. This is one of many deaths of Cal in the same place. Travis wakes up and goes into the grass. They are unable to find each other again, but he confesses to Becky that he made a mistake and he wants to have a family with her. Suddenly Travis hears screaming. It is Ross. He has found her. As Ross puts her down, she finds a pair of nail scissors and stabs his eye. This is the opportunity for her to run away. A huge rain starts and Becky notices grass creatures all around her. The creatures carry her to the trampled grass circle with the ominous stone. She pulls out her phone and calls her past self, telling her not to make the same mistakes again and to end the loop. Becky begins to feel pressure, and from the carvings on the stone it seems the grass creatures want her to have a premature birth and use the baby as a sacrifice. The ground sinks in and it is revealed that huge roots are coming out of the stone and the people as if they are stuck to the ground. Becky wakes up disoriented, with Cal giving her some water to drink. He shows her the baby, just out of the oven and baked just right. He feeds her. When she asks what she's eating, he says it's just grass. It turns out it's not grass and it was not Cal, it was Ross. Sometime later, Travis finally finds his way to the clearing, Becky lying there unconscious. Tobin explains to him that Ross killed the baby and Cal is dead too. He's afraid this loop will never stop. His father will keep killing them over and over again. Travis calls on Ross to come out and is ambushed. Two of them fight, with Ross picking a sharp bone out of the mud and stabbing Travis. Ross picks Tobin up and forces him to touch the rock, but Becky comes to her senses and pokes out Ross's other eye. Travis starts bashing Ross's head against the rock, but he throws him off. Eventually Travis overpowers Ross and strangles him with grass. He notices that Becky has died. Enraged, Travis touches the stone, the sky turns red and he begins to feel the grass envelop him. The whole field becomes clear to him. He tells Tobin to follow him, he gives him Becky's necklace and tells him not to let her in and pushes him out of the grass field. Tobin is in the church, he walks out into the sunny day, sees Cal's car parked on the side of the road and another Tobin screaming for help from the grassy field. Tobin rushes to them and begs them to just leave. He shows Becky the same necklace she has and tells her it's from Travis. Becky shows it to Cal and they agree to leave. Becky decides to turn around and keep the baby, finally stopping the loop. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe Cinema Synopsis if you want to watch more recap videos.